Okay, folks, I apologize. We had a little technical issue. Apparently, my updates with JavaScript weren't current, so I kind of lost connection there for a little bit because I tried to rebroadcast my tales of angst back in my teenage days. So figure it's Blue Monday. We might as well go into the past and not discuss politics and well, we'll discuss religion. Don't worry about that. We're going to get into that here soon. Because it all ties into it. But here's my story. Okay? Imagine a young man about 16, 17 years old. Thinks his shit don't stink. And he's hanging out with his buddies. And he said, well, I got a great idea. Let's just throw a party because, my parents are going to be out of town for 3 days. So we got plenty of time to clean up. Little did I know, but that will destroy the end of the story. So, and you can't really debate this when Uncle JG 1975 or whoever you are because it's true. And I'm pretty sure that you yourself have done this. Right? Maybe not. Maybe yes, maybe no. Right? So anyway, I get this great revelation to throw this party. Because I know. It's like my mom's going out of town for this crazy antique convention or something. I didn't have any clue what it was. But I knew I had 3 days. And I was like, wow. Okay. Time to have a party. Anybody there? Right? So, I decided to let everybody know ahead of time. I had plenty of advance because I knew this was going on. Obviously, my mother had the intuition of the Holy Spirit at the time, or maybe she never did. Maybe she just had good instinct. Either way, I decided to throw this party, right? So, told everybody where it was at. And keep in mind, this is like Thursday or Friday. I know my mom's leaving out of town on Friday or whatever, right? So say, hey guys, we're going to do this little get together thing, doing this, that, and the other thing. You know how crazy this gets? It gets blown out. And this is like Animal House on steroids, how crazy it gets. But I don't want to go too into it because, there's prying eyes. But here's the interesting thing. Started telling everybody all week I was doing this thing. So I've got a guest list slowly starting to grow bigger and bigger. And I'm going, well, half of these guys are numpties. They're never going to show up, right? Yeah, exactly. Except for my core crew, which I'm going to give a shout out to now. Like my buddy Aaron, my buddy Rizzo, buddy Cook. Cook was there. He knows. Cook watches any of these broadcasts, which I doubt he does, because I probably offend him because I bash certain lifestyles. Look, buddy, even though you chose that lifestyle, I still love you, okay? You're my brother. You always have been. But I just don't approve of the lifestyle. But that's another story in itself. It's a different show. That's like it's another 2 hours in the bag right there for that particular segment. But listen, you were there. We're all there. With the exception of Fagameister, right? Or Hagemeister, whatever his freaking name is. Guy's like a state trooper or some shit. Don't come and arrest me, Brent. I still love you, buddy. Okay? We're still brothers, alright? I just give you shit because everybody gave you shit. So don't get a friggin' hard on trying to give me a ticket for giving you shit. Okay? Because at this time in the game, we were all stupid. So, anyway, I have this party. And it was planned out a week in advance because I knew, you know, like everybody knows, their parents go out of town for a certain amount of time. You got time to get away with the friggin' crime and clean it up afterwards, right? Or so you think. But you see, like, everybody gets caught. That's why those of you young guys and women that watch the show, I don't know how many of there are out there. Don't try this at home, okay? Because you'll get a shoe in your ass if you do. All right? So, I knew my mom was going out of town. It was one of those 4-day weekends or 3-day weekends, something like that. So, woke up on Saturday morning. She left. So, I started speed dialing the phone, you know? Next thing I know, I got this buddy showing up. My buddy Cook. You know? And Cook, he shows up there. Shows up with this piece of shit beat up Honda. The alternator's going out. Battery's dead. And I was like, and then my buddy Aaron shows up. Okay, he shows up shortly afterwards. Actually, he and I went home together on the bus, I think, if I can remember correctly. Aaron, if you're watching this broadcast, maybe you can, call in and whatever. But we get on the bus, we go home, and next thing I know, Andy Cook calls. He shows up, and we're trying to get this whole thing prepped out, before everybody shows up. Because I told everybody tentatively 7 o'clock, be there. Be there or be square. So, of course we got to run a bunch of errands and shit. Because Cook, his alternator went out, so his battery's dead. So we figure, okay, let's go to the auto parts store and get a battery, right? Well, of course, common sense and logic don't adequately equate with teenagers, because that's what we were at the time. Snowing, blowing snow, nasty weather. So we go all the way to Arvada to go pick up this car part. All right, and it was a battery and an alternator for my buddy's car, which, God, man. In some ways, I'm kicking myself for saying this, but I'm sure a lot of you get a kick out of it. So, we go get this part. By this time, because I had no common sense at the point, and no common sense to sobriety, I'd already had like maybe 3 or 4 cocktails and maybe a joint. And my buddy behind me, Aaron, same deal. We're all just blitzed out of our minds. Except for Cook. He hadn't started in yet. He was like, yeah, I gotta drive. I gotta go get my battery and whatnot. So we go in there. He gets his shit, and we're driving out of there. And keep in mind, at this point, Cook is a little bit older than I am. All right? Just a little bit. By what, maybe 4 months, something like that. So he's got a license to drive. I got a learner's permit. My buddy Aaron, he's not even driving yet. Shit, this guy's still riding a skateboard and busting skulls, okay? He's still busting skulls. I call him Little Joe Pesci for a reason, because he still likes to bust skulls. So props out to you, buddy. So Schmuckball takes it upon himself. And I use that term endearingly. Go get the battery and everything else. Keep in mind, this is not my car we're driving. It's not even his car. It's my mom's car. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. This is where the story gets interesting, right? This is where it gets really interesting. Common sense would have prevailed at that point to call the whole thing off. But no. So like any other schmuckball in the universe, you gotta, kind of test the waters a little bit. So, we went and got this thing, right? But schmuckball is driving the car. And who do I refer by schmuckball but Cook, right? Cook's driving the car. He's driving like a fucking madman. Parking lot's all icy. So he thinks it's cool to like fucking do peel outs and shit. And I'm like, have good time. My buddy Aaron's having a good time. But both of us in the back of my mind, our minds are going, you have no idea what you're dealing with here. So he hits this patch of ice on this parking lot in Arvada. In this little Honda, hatchback, right? Hits this patch of ice, spins out, and boom! Hits the right front tire against this curb. Of course, we didn't think anything of it. We're like, it's fine. We don't know shit about cars. We're young guys. We're like, this thing's tougher than that. We can deal with this situation. So we have the battery, we have the parts, we have everything. We're going back to the house, but we start noticing that the car's pulling in all different directions. You're starting to get that wobble kind of sensation out of the tires. And you got a major problem, but you're too delusional to figure it out because you're on the Fukinol and the LSD. So anyway, we're pulling off on this exit ramp, and we're like, we better get out and look at this. And my buddy, he's a pussy. He's sitting in the driver's seat. He's like, he's not really a pussy. He's something else, but I can't say it because it's not politically correct. God bless you, buddy, but I love you. All right. So, boom. Hits the curb, right? So we're on the thing. I got a minute to sum this up before we go into part 2 of the story. Okay? No, I'm not making much sense right now, but that's okay. God bless us all. Some days we make sense. Some days we don't make sense. But anyway, we stop at this curb. We get out, and I notice the hubcap's totally busted off the side of the tire, and I'm like, Farfenugin, dude. What the hell? Kind of looks at me like, well, I didn't mean to, typical bullshit. So anyway, be back after this break.